All right, everybody. Welcome to The Race, a podcast brought to you by FCA Endurance. I am your host, Andy Peterson, and with me today is Mark Long. Hey, Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite, Andy.
You got it. Well, Mark, as you know, this is our first episode, and given your role within FCA Endurance, I couldn't think of a better person to help kick this thing off on the right foot by inviting you on the show and asking you to provide us a little bit of background about the FCA Endurance as a ministry. But before that, I wanted to tell our listening and maybe viewing audience, depending on where we distribute this, how I met Mark. And so it was over a year ago, Mark, you probably remember the story. It was in St. George, Utah at a 70.3 triathlon. And I was wearing the FCA garb, the FCA Endurance kit. And it was a fun race until we got out of the water. And as soon as we got onto the bike, a massive hailstorm. We were greeted by lightning and well, first it was sand. Sand was hitting my face from the side because we were heading into the desert. And then I look in the distance and there's lightning coming down on the other side of the mountain. And I'm looking at other athletes and we're looking at each other like, we're going that direction. But finally we got through all of that and I got on the run. And by then the skies had cleared up and I hear a sound. It's like it's from the heavens. I heard FCA, and as I'm running, and I look around, I'm ready to fall flat on my face anyway, because I was at that point pretty much done with the race. And I look around and I see Mark, and he's also running the race. He's got the FCA Endurance kit, so I know exactly who is calling out my name or calling out the name of our ministry. And so I stop and turn around and go to shake his hand or whatever. He's like, no, keep going. I'm like, I don't care at this point. I'm just happy to be here. So that's after the race, we got together and we chatted a little more, and we ended up chatting with another FCA Endurance athlete who was also at the race. And that was so it is a real blessing to wear the kit, because you're not only racing, you're not the only one racing for Christ, you're racing along other athletes with other athletes. So that's also always a good benefit of wearing the kit. So anyway, Mark, again, glad to have you on the show. Back to FCA Endurance and about the background. So for those who are new to the ministry, it may be best just to look at this from like a historical perspective. Were you there at the beginning of FCA Endurance? How has it grown? How has the Lord blessed it? What's your take on all that?
Yeah, good starting point. And what I'd love to do, almost if I can, Andy, is start with the origin of FCA. It's kind of neat to know that FCA Endurance is a part of the ministry of FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which was founded in 1954. And they had their first camp in 1956 at Estes Park, and that kind of launched the general ministry overall. And it has just grown exponentially. We have over 2,000 colleagues now internationally, and it's just phenomenal to see God's hand at work in that. And FCA Endurance, there was a guy on staff by the name of Chris Anderson, who you know, and Chris Anderson was an endurance athlete, and I think he just had a heartbeat to really take this FCA platform and take it to the ministry. Initially, and back in 2005, Chris founded the FCA Endurance division of FCA. And at the time, we had a single sport ministry platform at a national level. So Chris took that and just ran with that. And he formed a board around that. And some of those names, guys like Barry Edwards, who was also at that race with us and at Worlds, and several others. And we had an iron prayer at that race too, which was pretty phenomenal as well. But 17 years ago, Chris kind of birthed FCA Endurance, and it really took off. And I think those early years are also when the endurance sports industry, the triathlon industry, was really growing exponentially. So there was a lot of growth in the numbers coming into endurance sports and triathlons, as well as into our ministry. So it's been pretty phenomenal. I mean, when you look at the numbers, right now we have a history list of about 4,500 FCA teammates that have participated over those 17 years. Now, some are no longer racing, but it's still an active ministry. Over the years and around the world, there was that many people who have at least represented FCA Endurance at a race or training or in their local sport, just on the endurance side. Right now, we've kind of asked our teammates to renew every other year, about every third year. So we'll go into a new renewal period next year in 2023. But there's about 500, a little over 500 active teammates right now. And I would say there's probably another couple thousand that are inactive in terms of not renewing, but they're still participating as a FCA teammate, endurance teammate at some level. We've got about 30 to 35 huddles across the country, and they have ebbed and flowed with and through the pandemic. We're kind of rebirthing some new ones now. We look to start, we'd hope, and we're praying to start around 10 new huddles next year, Lord willing. So it obviously is focused on the adult sports athlete. It's not triathlon only. There's runners, there's cyclists, there's, a lot of CrossFit people that are even part of the ministry, and there's different aspects of it, but it's really focused on endurance sports and adult athletes, even though there are some younger people competing.
Yeah. And we're definitely not going to turn anybody away, and what these end up being ultimately, these local huddles, they're Bible studies, and it's a way for people in the endurance community to get together, to worship, to study, to encourage one another. And that's what these local huddles are all about. So what we try to do is ultimately is, as a matter of fact, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, somebody signed up. So for somebody from the national headquarters of FCA Endurance emailed me and let me know that this gentleman, who is a mountain biker, he races mountain bikes, he rides mountain bikes recreationally, he wants to be involved in FCA Endurance. So I mean, it really does cover the gamut of endurance sports and beyond. And when I've run my huddles, it's been their endurance athletes and their spouses who don't necessarily have a heart to race, but they do have a heart for the Lord. And so that's been a blessing. And it's almost as if you double your huddle size just by virtue of extending it out to your extended family. Yeah. So that's really great. So and in addition, I got two follow-up questions. The first one is, so you sent out an email today, and I don't know when this podcast is going to go out, but there is a list of things that you provide. Ministry equipment, tattoos, Bible studies, online, and just all sorts of ways for, if somebody is interested in starting a huddle, they pretty much hit the ground running just by contacting you and asking, what is it that I can get from the headquarters, essentially, to help me get started and lead this huddle. And so I really appreciate that that option is available to us.
Yeah, I think just to speak to that, Andy, what's beautiful about the ministry of FCA and FCA Endurance is that long history of resources. It's just phenomenal, the bank of resources that we have, both on the FCA side, but also on the endurance side specifically. And I think it's probably noteworthy to mention too that when we talk about FCA Endurance, it's not just for people who are doing ultras. I mean, it could be for a 5K person or something wanting to get started in running or get starting in a triathlon or mountain biking, as you said, or road biking. So it really covers a broad spectrum of that. And kind of our tagline is competing for Christ. So a lot of us do get involved in the competition side of things, whether it's triathlon or running races or biking races. But the theme is competing for Christ, and that's why we do it. And my role in the ministry is to really equip. So we've got a new tool called E3 Discipleship. And the three words are engage, equip, and empower. And that's sort of the role that I have with the ministry at a national level. Is I see myself as engaging our teammates across the country, and even internationally, we've got a handful in other countries, as well as our huddles, and just equipping them with the resources to go out and do the ministry and really fulfill our commandment, to the great commandment and the great commission to love God, love others, and to go make disciples. So we provide a lot of resources to do that. And the website is sort of the platform where all of that is communicated. We've got a couple of different tabs on our website that have printed resources, have website links to do discipleship resources, and a lot of different ammunition or tools for the toolbox, if you will, to go out and do the ministry and fulfill the commission.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we do a phenomenal job of that, just to get the word out through that sort of communication. And so this podcast is essentially designed just to piggyback on what's already being done. It seems like everybody and their brother already have a podcast. I've already listened to 3 podcasts today, just doing my morning chores, things of that nature. So I'm thinking this particular podcast, while I don't listen, I usually listen to music while I'm working out. I mean, this could be something that somebody could fold into their day. 30-minute podcast. If you're a huddle leader, if you want to know what's going on with the ministry, the goal of this is just to kind of further unite the FCA Endurance teammates. You don't have to be FCA Endurance huddle leader. You can be a teammate, or you can just be on the fringe and not know any, you might be new to sports. You might be new to endurance sports. You might be a new Christian. You might be a seasoned vet in both endurance sports, and you might have been a Christian for a long time. We'd like to provide the global community the ability to, regardless of where you're at in your Christian walk or where you're at in your training, to combine those two loves that you have and promote that nationwide. And so we want to learn from one another. We want to inspire one another. We want to, for the left hand to know what the right hand is doing. I'm here in the Midwest. Mark, where are you at right now?
Right now in Florida, but reside in Virginia.
Okay, you're in Virginia. I met him near the West Coast, and it's so we're all over the place. And what better way to do this? To keep in touch with one another on our own time. We've done Zoom meetings before where everybody logs in at 8 p.m. Central Standard, which is 7, and that's a little bit tougher, but it's doable. But this, you can listen to this podcast on your own time, and you can always follow up with an email or a question, on social media or a phone call. So we're, we really want to help each other run with endurance the race that is set before us. That's Hebrews 12:1. And so to do that, Mark, what I was thinking that we would do, so I'm kind of interviewing you right now, kind of setting the stage for what we have planned. And what I would like to do is interview other FCA endurance leaders. There are a couple of standouts who I've been in the ministry for about, it's over 10 years now. I was looking at my Google photos, and I'm looking at these old pictures of our first couple of meetings, and it's like, wow. It's pretty amazing how far, how long we've been doing this.
Right.
Different sizes of huddles, big and small, but just to bring everybody together so that we can grow together in our walk with Christ. So are you a huddle leader right now, Mark?
Yeah, good question. I am. We've actually got 3 huddles in our area in Virginia. We've got a Southwest Virginia huddle that's a little broader than just the local town that I'm in. We've got a men's huddle that is all endurance teammates. And then we've got a women's huddle that's all endurance teammates too. So it's just a joy to kind of see how God is just bringing about growth, individual growth, not just numerical growth, but really spiritual growth in the lives of those guys. And we meet weekly, and the ladies meet every other week, and we're doing the YouVersion Bible study together as a closed group so we can kind of read each other's comments. And that almost happens day to day, which is really wonderful. And then it does connect us. We've got a few of the guys that Zoom in. They're out of town, but they'll Zoom into our huddle meeting, and they just participate virtually, but we are engaged with them as well. So it's just a wonderful platform, and to see that across the country, that's our hope, to multiply that.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of draw attention to the local huddle, is because, you and I were just 2 voices in some listeners' ear right now. But if, for whatever reason, if you're struggling in your faith and you need discipling, or maybe you need to get involved in some other way, and you need a group of guys or a group of gals or a group, whatever group it is, there's very likely that an FCA endurance huddle might be near you. And that would be my prayer, is that you would find that huddle, or if you're interested in starting one on your own, reaching out and seeing who else is in the area. And so I think that's one of the goals here. So whether you're a veteran like Mark or me, or whether you're new to the sport or new to the faith, or even if you're not a believer, we are here maybe because you saw the FCA Endurance logo on a shirt and you were running and you didn't know what that was about. And so you're checking into this podcast because you're just intrigued. Regardless of the circumstances, we welcome you and we encourage you to stick around because I think we have a lot in store. There are some characters in this community, Christian community. There are some great athletes in this Christian community. And there are people I know who love the Lord. I see them on Facebook. There's people I have on a list. I just want to interview them because I love their personality, their character. And so I think we're going to be entertained, but not entertained. That's kind of just a side issue. I think we're basically wanting to just to grow in Christ together and to race together. So Any final thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, just, I think there's like you had mentioned a little bit earlier, Andy, there's something for everyone. Even those that are spectators of those who may have friends and family that are in the competitive world, racing and training and so forth. But a lot of it is, what I can point to now is the hat that you're wearing and the shirt that I'm wearing. These are ways to really get the word out and to really almost even subtly and quietly let others know why you're doing what you're doing and why we are competing for Christ. And others ask questions about that, so it draws them in. So I think it's a beautiful way to very gently and comfortably invite others to be engaged or be involved or to want to learn more about the ministry and how they can participate and at what level they can really fulfill God's calling on their lives in the endurance world.
Yeah, and just to touch on the gear a little bit more, I mean, you need a water bottle, right? And so you can buy one that has the FCA Endurance logo, and it does spark conversations. And the quality of this stuff, I'm very impressed with. I bought a new cycling kit, and it's top notch. And I can't remember what I think it's called. Crown of Thorns is the name of the design. And
Yes.
it's fun. I love it. I love the colors. It's just so well done. And I have ideas for a couple of others that I think would be neat too. And so if you have any comments or thoughts on any of the things that might be able to improve our ministry, expand our reach, or make Christ known in other creative ways, feel free to reach out to us as well.
You bet.
So yeah, and one of my favorite stories, the reason why I started the huddle, because we didn't have a huddle, but I bought the kit because I thought it was great and I wanted to glorify the Lord in my racing. And it was a similar situation. It was an out and back running a local try, and there's a guy coming at me. He's wearing the same uniform that I'm wearing, the same kit. And so we high five each other, and then after the race we met up and we decided, hey, let's start a huddle. And so I think there's a lot of, and like you said, it's just a subtle visual representation of what's in your heart. And it's great. And we have tents that are canopies that we can set up. So if you wanted to purchase for your huddle a canopy and set up a water station at a local, 5K, 10K, whatever it may be, that provides the venue for that. And so basically the rest is up to you and your creative thought, and in your prayer time, ask the Lord what it is that he might have in store for you in terms of how you would like to serve and grow in Christ. It's part of your life, because it takes up a major part of an endurance athlete's life is the training piece too.
You bet. Yeah. And two things I'd love to sort of throw out here too is, as a ministry, FCA Endurance, we exist really to engage and unite Christian athletes to build community and to equip them with the resources to grow their faith and their fitness, and to empower them to go and make disciples as they compete for Christ. And it ties beautifully with FCA's general mission statement, which says to lead every coach and every athlete into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and his church. So that really syncs up beautifully with why we do what we do and why really the ministry of FCA Endurance exists.
Yeah. And touching on that, the fact that, like the parent ministry is FCA, that is almost a common household name. Yeah. And so kind of piggybacking on that and leveraging your local FCA representative for additional support. I meet with mine on an occasional basis just so that we could touch base and make sure that we're tracking. And maybe there's potentially something that we can partner with in that respect. I've spoken at our FCA banquet before, just trying to get the word out. And, they have the rotating banners at their banquets, and we have an FCA Endurance slide that shows up there as well, just to get the word out that, hey, you don't have to be a kid to be a participant of FCA, or a coach, or, whatever it may be, at any age, at any ability level. You can sign up for FCA Endurance, and you'll have that camaraderie. You'll have that, the ability to run the race with somebody else that's going in the same direction.
Yeah, and I think too, Andy, what you just said has a lot of merit as well. And I think of bridges often, and when you look at the ministry of FCA and then where we are as an adult ministry, really, FCA is pretty well known in a lot of the high schools and middle schools and junior high schools out there, and even at the college level. And now there's some pros out there too that are competing as FCA athletes. But what we are able to do really is kind of build a bridge to take them from middle school to junior high and junior high to high school, and then the bridge from high school to college. If they want to compete in sports or even not, they can plug into an FCA huddle at their college. But then when they leave college, where do they go? So now we, as an endurance ministry, as an adult endurance sports ministry, we can offer that bridge, because a lot of times out of college, people are finding their careers, finding their life, and kind of setting the wheels in motion, and they'll take up running or some other kind of activity that will then be able to connect them to Christ, which is what the FCA Endurance platform does. It really allows them to connect with others in that same community to really pursue their passion. As you said earlier, the two loves, the love for sport and the love for Christ, to combine those passions together and really fulfill their calling in life and God's purpose.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I have two sons. They're both cross country athletes. One's a senior in college. The other one is a sophomore in college. And they go to a Christian college, and they have a wonderful environment where they are studying, running, and fellowshipping together as a team. They have a wonderful team community. And once you graduate, the team is gone. And so it's almost my encouragement to those college kids. You might be relocating, and you might not be living in your parents' basement. You might be out on your own in a different location, and you need to find a church. But maybe while you're looking for a church, you're also looking for an FCA Endurance huddle. Because I know my boys, and I know their friends who have graduated that are now in the workforce. One is turned into he's a triathlete now. He's doing triathlons, but he was another one's a coach. So I probably should reach out to him and just make sure that he is aware of FCA. I mean, it would be hard not to be aware, but also FCA Endurance, and just to focus on, perhaps participating in both of those ministries.
And I think too, what you said, there's several steps involved too, either connecting with a local huddle, if there is one, and be bold and step out and form a huddle. And I think you mentioned that in some of our prior conversations. Like you and I, we saw that there was a need. We had a handful of friends that were also followers of Christ and also involved in the endurance world. We connected with them and we said, hey, we've got the core of a huddle here. Let's go ahead and launch a huddle. So it's very easy to do. It's simple. It's free. We have all the resources to get it done. So we really want to make sure that everyone knows that it is a pretty simple process to get a huddle underway, and even to connect with other teammates and other believers in your local area with a sport that you love.
Yep. Yeah, I just visited FCAendurance.org. I'm looking at it right now. That's the website, FCAendurance.org. Of course, I think we're involved in other social media outlets, probably Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure. I know that individual huddles. Oh, I just saw a picture of my huddle go across the screen there. That's great. So feel free to visit that website. That will allow you to reach out. As I'm looking at these, I see ultra runners, I see families. I see all sorts of weather. Looks like there's a couple of runners in the winter. I see, all age groups and all abilities. They're just running with smiles on their faces, which I've never managed to do. Maybe they're grimacing. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's a wonderful ministry. It's the one that I participated in the longest, and at various levels. So, we encourage you to get involved. And so we're going to be probably lining up. I think the approach that we're going to take, Mark, is probably release these maybe once a week. And see where it goes from there. See if the Lord blesses it. Get through season 1, which may be 10 to 12 episodes. See how things go. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. I love the idea. And, we're called and commissioned, and really in the Bible, we read about how we are to bring God glory in all that we do. So there's several verses, 1 Corinthians 10:31, and several in Colossians about that very thing. And that's sort of one of our theme verses too, in addition to Hebrews 12:1. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. And I think our intent is to, when we go out and compete and when we're interacting with others in the community that we're in, is to bring glory to God. And that helps us keep our priorities right and our focus right when we go out there and do it with that order. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would be remiss to not say I think I've set up a Patreon account too. So if you wanted to contribute in a financial way, that would certainly be a welcome option as well. Right now, I think, I mean, we're going to be running off of Zoom, and they have a 40-minute time limit. Not that that it needs to last much longer than that, but there might be some resources that we might be grateful to be able to invest in to kind of make this a more well-known venue. And so we'll make that available like in our show notes as well, along with
Sure.
links to how to get a hold of us, and just try to inspire you guys with upcoming podcasts. So I think with that, wow, there's a lot of great pictures on here. This really is a nationwide, if not worldwide, ministry, and it's wonderful. So I encourage anybody who's interested to reach out to us at fcaendurance.org and subscribe to this podcast. And we got a lot of good material coming at you. So until next time, we encourage you to race for him, to rest in him, and to live for him. So take care, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Andy. God bless.
God bless.